move into our 50s and let's find out what we need to start figuring out for our 50s. Well, a mistake is not catching up with, guess what? Retirement savings. Many people in their 50s have not saved enough money for retirement and may not take advantage of catch-up contributions allowed by retirement accounts. And you know, I was one of them. I wasn't able to start saving for my retirement until I actually reached my 50s. Forget about the catch-up. I just had to start saving. So anyhow, any tips or suggestions?
Always. A wealth of knowledge. Just ask me. Just maximize your account contributions. It's really sort of like the same concept as paying the credit card, and once that one's paid off, use that money now to do the, you know, that at this point your cars are probably paid off. You know, those types of things. You've got that a little extra, maybe discretionary income that you can be pouring into, well, your travel if that's what you want, but your retirement.
Yeah.
And whatever that looks like, that the 401ks or the IRA's independent retirement
account.
I was so close.
You had it. You had it. She's really got a great memory for that kind of stuff.
Thanks, Lonnie. But you know, and again, as Lonnie already said, investigate catch-up contributions for your savings gaps, and sometimes there's a benefit to a double payment. Sometimes they're not. Look at your account and see.
Yeah. Another one is not planning for health care and long-term care costs. Well, we've already discussed this, but underestimating your future needs and failing to plan for any long-term expenses can really put a strain on your finances. And again, you know, this is where you would need to really be savvy about what's going to work for you, whether it's going to be a healthcare savings or whether it's going to be long-term insurance. But again,
so my first recommendation is talk to the AARP, talk to your senior center. There are seminars available to this demographic on a regular basis on these are the things that are available. These are the options that might be available. Look at those seminars, watch them online if that's something you're comfortable doing. And again, talk to financial planners. Let those who do this for this age demographic professionally help you make those decisions. You know, the Medicare, what they cover, what they don't, what the gaps and all that is very complicated. Don't try and do that on your own. That's my tip.
Well, and I was going to say, if at this point you haven't gotten a financial planner or an estate planner yet, talk to your friends, find out who they're using. You want somebody that's going to be, that's going to work for you. Be careful if you're going online and seeking advice and them trying to charge you all this ridiculous money now. It's not, financial planners do charge a fee because they are experts in their field and they should be paid for their expertise. But I would talk to friends and see who is in your area that you can sit down face to face and talk with, and who can help guide you through a lot of these decisions that you need to be planning for, because as you get older it gets more difficult.
Yeah, and every community has some type of a senior guide. Use that as a resource to find someone if you're not comfortable talking to anybody else about it. You know, just I also would encourage you to only interact with someone where you actually can go in, sit in their office and see paper, see displays, see those numbers, that human interaction, because then you're going to know this person is, you know, you listen to that inner voice. Is this just a job to this person? Is this job important to this person? And I believe that their recommendation for me is, or their options are viable for me.
That they're going to have your best interest at heart, that they have that passion.
That, yes, that they're going to help you prioritize your financial security.
Yeah.
While still offering guidance.
Yeah. So we're going to go on to the next topic, which is overextending your financial support to adult children. It's really important to have your adult children learn to stand on their own 2 feet, and it's hard to watch them go through financial struggles.
Don't listen, mother.
But if you let them struggle, not to a detriment, but if you let them struggle, they'll figure it out, and it's going to make them stronger. You know, there are circumstances, you know, that things happen that are devastating that they would need help with. But we're talking about supporting somebody who is irresponsible and frivolous. You don't want to do that. You want them to learn how to stand on their own 2 feet. They should be able to pay for their education, or, you know, their housing or whatever. But if you're doing this, it can really delay your retirement and lead to your personal financial strain if you finally work your way out of it. So be real careful there and figure out, is your child in a dire emergency that they need help, or is it your responsibility? Again, 2 different ways, 2 different things, 2 different ways to handle it.
And I do have a caveat in here as well, and that's everything we do within our relationships is a negotiation. So if you've got a negotiation with yourself, my example is the cell phone bill. You would rather pay the bill and know that you've got contact with each other than leave that out there hanging, because that gives you some type of peace of mind. Then doggone it, you've prioritized that and you pay it. But be very clear with yourself what your boundaries are and what that negotiation is, so that you know you're prioritizing. You know, maybe your goal is to provide that wedding. Then you're looking at your financial picture and you're making your goals, your financial goals around that, and prioritizing around that. But if it's an unexpected that wedding and there's an expectation on you to provide that wedding, you know, it's okay to have a very different specific boundary. You know, it's okay to set a budget limit and say, I want this day to be everything that you want it to be, and I'm able to contribute X. You know, then that puts the onus on them to choose how they're using those funds, you know, without you having to just pay bills as they come in.
Yeah.
But not at the deficit of your own financial security.
No, you don't want to be going backwards.
Not now.
Yeah, not at this
now.
age, no. Taking on new debt, say home renovations, cars, supporting adult children's families, those all increase financial burden, especially when you're nearing retirement. So, you know, while you're working, figure out what your retirement is going to look like. Take a look and see, you know, where do you want to live? Are you going to stay put? Anyhow, what else do you think?
Well, if you're making those transitional decisions, very clearly those transitional decisions, are you still safe and comfortable living where you are? If you're not, what does that look like? Is that a transition into an assisted living? Is it a transition into an ADU in your daughter's backyard? What does that look like? How do you do that without adding to your debt? Maybe you want to consider a caregiver coming in with you in exchange in part for room and board. They provide the grocery shopping or the housekeeping, whatever that care might look like. just avoid any new debt. You can find creative ways to meet those other needs, of course, but you know, focus on reducing or eliminating any continued existing debt.
Excellent. Yeah,
Okay.
that's excellent. Excellent. Another mistake is not updating your estate plans. Many people forget to update their wills, their trusts, their beneficiaries, especially after life-changing events. Maybe they got married or they got divorced or there's a birth of a grandchild. You know, there's a lot of changes that can happen as you get older, and forgetting to update your documents is very important. And if you're still working at this point, don't forget any accounts that you may have through your employer, like we mentioned earlier. So what are some other tips?
Just that same thing that we've covered this at the 50th stage too, and that is to continuously, regularly review and update your plans, your estate plans, your financial plans, your goals. Make sure that your assets are being distributed the way that makes financial sense for you for, you know, your retirement, and that your wishes, you know. Now we're gonna really start looking at our power of attorney for our finances and for our medical needs. And so what does that look like? You know, gosh, Lonnie, surprise, you are now in charge of, you are my durable power of attorney for my medical needs, and I'm aware that there's going to be some co-pays, and so here's the account associated with that. In writing.
Yeah.
In writing. So, you know, I've chosen Lonnie because my kids have left the country. They're living out of the world, living and working out, because there's not somebody else that's a better option. I trust Lonnie. I know that she's going to be a person of integrity for me, but I'm not just saying, surprise, you're it.
Yeah.
She's aware of that, and she's aware that there's some funds to help support that, and where those are.
Communication, key. Communication is always key through every one of these processes. Key communication is really important.
Yeah, and it just helps to reduce any legal complications on the other end. You know, you don't want, you know, I've seen this over and over and over, where at the end of life, the distribution of anything remaining, or the need to cover any remaining debt of the estate, just can rip people apart. Money does funny things to people, and when you throw money in the middle of grief-stricken people, have your plan.
Well,
now's the time to make sure you've got your plan.
And talk about it. You know, it's, you know, be open with your kids. In fact, I've talked with both of mine, and they both know what's going to happen when I come to the end of my term.
Same. And we actually joke about it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
things like organ donation. You know, everybody has very different and strong feelings about that. For me, if I can't use it and it still has value for somebody, give it. Please. I don't know if there's going to be anything left, but.
Well, and to make things easier, because I don't want my son and daughter to be divided. So I've been sending them pictures. Who wants this? Who wants that? I'm decluttering, and I'm going through and I'm saying, I'm getting rid of this. Does anybody want it? And that way they have an opportunity. And I, again, in my notebook, I have all this documented so that when I am gone, it shows exactly what my wishes are. It's good to have this with an attorney as well, so they know exactly how to make sure things are dispersed according to your wishes. And that way, when it's out in the open, everybody knows, they know what to expect, they know what's coming, they know who's getting what. There shouldn't be any hurt feelings or anger or disappointment, because I personally have experienced where, you know, my dad wanted one thing done and it didn't happen, and it was very disappointing. And I don't want my kids to experience that or go through it. So again, communication all comes down to every one of these steps. Communication is key, and whether it be with your estate, financial planner, attorney, and your family members. They all need to know.
Can I share a funny story?
Absolutely.
I was visiting my family that lives in Oregon, and I was having lunch with my mother and my daughter and son-in-law and my 2 oldest grandchildren. And I wasn't expecting to see my grandson and my son-in-law because they were out having Guy Day, and they surprised us at lunch. And I said, I didn't expect to see you. And my son-in-law, meaning to say, we know that you're not here very long for the visit. They didn't want to miss out on that time. But what he said was, we know we don't have very much time with you. I died. I was laughing so hard. So do you know something I don't know? Well, he, then we had to tease him and mercifully about that. But it just went on and on about, well, if I don't, well, what do you want me to leave you in the will? And my granddaughter, without missing a beat, says, I want the Travel Godzilla.
Okay, you have to tell what the Travel Godzilla is about now that you brought it up.
I've got many, many Godzillas. Godzilla has been my friend and alter ego for decades upon decades.
Very true, very true.
One Godzilla, my Travel Godzilla, I suppose she's about this tall, and she has been everywhere with me, everywhere. She goes to chemo, she's been to Egypt, she rode a camel, she's been to Mexico, she's been to Stonehenge at sunrise, she goes everywhere.
And isn't she the one that has the costumes too?
Oh yes. Yes, we went to a costume party. The theme was Oktoberfest, so she went in lederhosen. I'm going to that same group of people are having a costume party again, and my friend and I are going as Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and Godzilla will have a little hat. But she said, my Adelaide said, I want the Travel Godzilla. Didn't miss a beat, and we're all laughing that I'm really not going to go. Okay, well, you know what? You spoke up first.
Yeah.
So everybody knows. Adelaide gets the Travel Godzilla. The Travel Godzilla is not going to the afterlife with me.
That's funny. So, if you have found value in what we have shared so far, please hit the like button, subscribe, and post a comment. If you have questions, put them in the comment section or email us, and we'll try to respond within 24 hours. So, we're getting to the end of this. How about let's cover mistakes in your 60s? That's a real transition period, because in your 60s you have a lot of decisions to be making. You want to avoid pitfalls in your 60s because you are approaching retirement, and you really need to understand healthcare costs. The expenses can be substantial when you're in your retirement, so you want to make sure that you have gotten and planned for whatever those expenses may be. Not planning for those costs can really throw you into financial strain. Many people experience that. So, what is a tip that we can take away from this?
Research Medicare options. I mentioned this before. Mm-hmm. They change often, so research what's going on with your Medicare out there. Supplemental plans to cover anything out of pocket. Research that. Consider the long-term healthcare insurance, but again, you're going to hear from both of us. Do the research.
Even though we disagree.
Right. I feel like we just did the vice presidential debate. We disagree on how to get there, but we agree the research has got to be done.
Yes.
Contribute to your health savings account, whatever that might look like for you, to cover those medical expenses, those co-payments like we already talked about for in your 50s.
Right. The other thing is neglecting to adjust investment strategies. Mm-hmm. As you near retirement, your investment strategies should become more conservative to protect your savings. Failing to adjust those in your portfolio can lead to an increased risk of your exposure. You want to go from something, when you're in your younger years, your younger generations, you can be more risky because you have time to make that money up that you may lose. However, when you're going through a transition period, you need to transition whatever you have into something that is more reliable, that isn't as high of a risk that you could lose what you have been saving so that you can have a comfortable retirement. What are some tips?
I have no idea.
Okay.
This is so out of my realm. This is where I would absolutely have to defer to somebody with personal experience that I trusted or a professional.
Okay.
I don't know what that would look like.
Okay, very good. So I will share with you a few things, but I will also be sure and add in here, I am not a financial planner or an estate planner, and I'm not an attorney. And these are people that you're going to want to lean on to help you through this process. I learned when I did retire from the state that there were some things that I thought were taken care of that weren't. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, but you want to make sure that you're preserving your capital. You want to shift your portfolio to something that's conservative, like bonds, dividends, stocks. You want to talk with a financial advisor so they can adjust your asset allocations. You want something that's going to be more reliable, like your savings, your home, your maybe you're invested in gold or silver. You want to keep things into a growth investment to protect inflation as well. Stocks, real estate, commodities, your treasury, inflation protection, those are all going to help you through this process. So again, I would highly recommend talking with a financial planner that can help you through this process. So, whew is right. So the other thing in this generation is ignoring Social Security timing. When you start taking Social Security benefits, it can really impact your financial income. There comes a point when you're going to have to be required to start pulling it, and based on when you were born, because it's changed, it's different for my age than it is for Amy's age or for my daughter's age. So you want to take a look and decide when you want to start pulling retirement. And you can actually go down to the Social Security Administration and talk to them, and they can give you some guides and tips. But if you wait till your full age, you can draw the full amount. If you pull earlier when you're first entitled, then you're going to be limited to the amount of money that you're going to get. And once you make that decision, there's no going back. They won't change it. At least it's the way it was when I retired. So when I made my decision, that was a decision I made, and there was no changing it. Let's see, they do have a calculator on the Social Security website that you can go to and figure out what's going to be better. And again, consulting a financial professional to determine the best time and dates to start claiming based on your health, based on your family history. What's your family's longevity, and your financial situation. So I was actually planning to work a couple more years because I had some financial goals in mind, but I decided to retire a few years earlier, and I am loving my life. So, but again, part of that comes with planning. I'm not 100% where I should be, but I do have enough in place where I don't have the financial stress. Another thing is overlooking debt, and we did. entertaining retirement with significant debt can be challenging, so you want to be careful about not taking on too much debt as you're reaching retirement. Again, take a look at your financial plans. Do you have any tips on this one?
Yes, and this is something you should be carrying through on a regular basis anyway, and that's reducing, different ways to reduce your financial burden, focusing on paying off, considering refinancing. Sometimes that can be real successful.
If it's a lower interest rate.
Yes. Yeah. That would be the point, that,
Right.
that you're getting a lower rate,
Right.
and that it also lowers the payment, which lowers things overall. Something to investigate though, if you're thinking about refinancing anything, your car, your house, whatever that might be, look to see if there's any penalty in any type of early payoff.
Right.
Does you'd like to have that? Maybe what you'd like to be able to do is make double payments every now and then as part of your planning. Avoid taking on new debt.
Yeah. So another mistake could be not reviewing the estate planning at this current age. With life circumstances changing, you want to make sure that your planning is keeping up with the direction that you're going. Again, your wills, your trusts, your power of attorneys, your beneficiaries. Anytime you're going to be doing any updating, don't forget to update with your employer if you're still working at this point. You want to make sure that your wishes are being met.
Your healthcare directives.
Exactly, because you want to minimize tax implications and prevent family division. So again, the communication, which we talked about earlier. But any tips here? I think we've pretty much been covering all of this. Yeah, and as you can see, when you
save and review.
Well, yeah. When you start in your 20s, it builds. Each generation builds upon the lessons that you learn in your 20s are going to progress into your 30s, and then your 30s will progress into your 40s, and so on and so forth. So that hopefully by the time you reach your 60s, you've pretty much got it all figured out, and you've got a good financial plan. You're living stress-free financially. At this age, again, another thing is you want to be careful that you're not spending too much money, because it's tempting. Once you're free into retirement, I made a mistake of, not really a mistake because I have enjoyed it, but I bought an RV, and that wasn't my wisest decision. Like I said, I've made all the mistakes, but you want to be careful about what you're spending your money on, and really thinking it through. Travel was another one. I went to Europe for 6 weeks after I retired. Was that the wisest decision? Well, yes and no. I loved it, but there was so much more that I really wanted to do with that. But, again, we all live, we all learn, we all make mistakes. We learn from our mistakes and hopefully don't make them again. But getting help from financial advisors, I can't say how important that really is to help you make these decisions, because you can bounce things off of them and they'll help you think through things that you may not have thought through. And that's why I really think they're worth their weight in gold.
Tell me about the 4%. The 4% rule to spending in retirement. What is that?
Okay, well, that's after you have retired. Every year, say you've got $500,000 you have been able to save. So maybe the first year of retirement, you're going to have your Social Security, maybe retirement pensions, whatever. Take a look and see, do you need to tap into that money to meet your obligations? And if you do, keep it to about 4%. you don't want to go much higher than that. So that means out of a $500,000 savings, you're going to take $20,000 and you'll put that into your account to go ahead and meet all your financial obligations. If you don't need it, don't take it. Let it continue to grow. But if the second year inflation is 2%, and then you're going to figure out, okay, I'm going to take my 4%, you're going to take $20,400, and that would be what you would pull from your retirement fund. And doing the 4%, it will help to avoid depleting your savings too quickly, and it'll help to keep you on track of what your spending is, and it will allow you to reassess what you have every year to make sure that you're not going to be wiping your savings out far too early.
Whew, thank you.
Yeah, it's a balancing act, and again, your financial planner is going to be what's really going to help you through that process, and make sure that you're not spending too much money, because you always, I don't care how old you are, to the day you take your last breath, you should be on a budget. Failing to reassess retirement income needs. Your retirement expenses might differ from what you expected. And regularly assessing your income needs and adjusting your budget is really important.
Is now the time, if I haven't already done it, say, we've talked about our final wishes and making sure we've got that communication, we've got that plan in place. Should this also include budgeting for those funerary costs?
Oh, excellent point. There are expenses that come along with, what they're going to do with your body, what kind of service you're going to have, where you're going to be laid to rest, whether you're going to be cremated. I mean, there's so many things to think about. And again, your financial planner can really help you through that process and determine what is important to you. And then there are insurance policies out there that you can start paying for things through a funeral home or different societies that will take care of what your needs actually, or how you really want to be buried at the end of your life.
On my 50th birthday, I was only 50. I received a letter from the Neptune Society with complete packages.
Oh, yeah.
But the point is they do exist. Mm-hmm. There's, even your local mortuary can help set those types of things up.
Right. Maybe you want to be scattered out to sea. Maybe I'd rather just be cremate me and then scatter me in the garden. Let me just grow with the flowers. That would make me happy. I'm not going to know. I'm not going to be around. We don't know what's going to happen after life, and that is a mystery. But I am thrilled to find out what it's going to be like. Anyway, when that time comes, I'll deal with
that. This might be too personal questions, so you can cut it out. Do you have pre-planning already done?
Yes, I do. And I'm going to be cremated, and I've told my daughter that I do want to be either under a tree or in the garden. So yeah, that is something that will take place.
The pre-planning is done and the pre-budgeting is done. That's part of that financial.
Yeah, and I have money set aside that will go specifically to my daughter, because the burden is pretty much going to fall on her. So she will have those funds given to her to take care of the expenses that come with end-of-life stuff. But, and we talk about it. And, at first my daughter was like, "Oh, Mom, you're not going anywhere." And okay, I'm not going anywhere tomorrow, but we never know what's going to happen. Walking down the street, you never know. So I want her to be prepared and know what to expect. And her husband has a good head on his shoulders, so he'll help walk her through, and he knows what my plans are, and he knows about my notebook, so he'll be able to help with all of that. And I know my son would, come in and support as well. But anyhow, and there's things that I'm going to share here, but these are not my area of expertise. At one point, I was so involved in IRAs. I could tell you everything and anything about them, and I was actually going about to local organizations and speaking on them when I was working in the bank, and I love that. But I am so far removed from it that I am not well versed anymore. I am not up to date. So what I'm going to share with you right now is information that you need to take to a financial planner who is current on all these rules and regulations. But not maximizing your retirement account is another pitfall. You want to make sure that you're contributing to a retirement account, such as your IRA or a 401k, and don't overlook the transition into retirement. This is really important. You want to make sure that you're maximizing the amount of contributions that you can if you are financially able to do this. Because once you quit working and you have actually retired, it's hard to, put that money aside into retirement savings. So, again, you want to try and take advantage of catch-up contributions. There's a Roth IRA, and that is something you'd want to talk to your financial planner about. But there are benefits to certain being a part of certain investments and certain types of IRAs that would help you. And I can't talk about that because I'm not a pro at it. I'm not an expert. So be sure and seek help from those professionals. You want to make sure that you have adequate insurance, life insurance. We've talked about the long-term care insurance. Savings is crucial. Skipping those can leave you or your family in financial vulnerability. So make sure that you have good insurance, and shop around for different policies. Ask the questions. Make a list of questions and make sure that you're getting the answers that you're looking for before you make a decision. And if you're not sure what questions to ask, guess what? The internet's available and they can give you a list of questions. Chat GPT, folks. Go out there and say, what questions should I ask about this particular insurance? And it'll give you a list of questions. And then you need to find out what kind of answers you're looking for. So, now, lack of diversification. We talked about this a little bit earlier, and this is when you rely too heavily on one type of investment. And that can be very risky because as you get into stocks, bonds, things like that, there's going to be a market where at one point it goes up and another point it goes down. And if you diversify, which means you're spreading things out to different markets, you're going to be hitting them when they're up. And your financial planner can actually help you with that. Markets fluctuate like crazy. So I had my investments, some in medical, I had some in technology, and some in international, and that kind of hit a lot of different areas. But when you retire, you want to take things out of those high-risk investments and put them into things that are more reliable, things that are more protected and stable for your retirement income. You don't want to end up losing any of that income. So finally, we are moving into our 70s. This has been a long process, it feels like. But this is where financial stability becomes really important. You don't want to be making mistakes at my age. So, failing to take required minimum deposits, they're called RMDs, Once you turn 72 or 73 for some, it depends on your birth year, and you'll have to figure that out for yourself. You have to start taking these required distributions. And it's from like a traditional accounts like IRAs or 401ks. And if you don't take the required distribution, there's hefty tax penalties. And you don't want to be losing your money or giving it to the government. All you had to do is pull it out and put it into a regular savings account. So make sure that you understand and know what those rules are, and then apply them. And this again is where a financial planner would come in, because hopefully your financial planner is going to have it calendared when you need to start doing this, and can help you remember to do it, and help you know how much it is that is required to be taken based on your age. So yeah, there's, through every stage of life there's things to learn. Not managing your withdrawal rate. If you draw too much money from your retirement savings too quickly, it can deplete your funds, and then you're not going to have anything left. And that's why it's essential to manage withdrawal rates carefully, and that's when we talked about the 4% rule. Well, guess what? If you don't need 4%, take it down to 3, take it down to 2. If you don't need it, let it continue to grow. It's only going to benefit you further on down the road when you need it, and especially if you're going to get to where you have health needs. So the other thing is, consider a mix of income sources. There's annuities, there's your pension, there's stable cash flow without it affecting or depleting your investments. Those are all really important that financial planners can walk you through. And we've talked about, long-term care planning, so I don't think we need to go through that again, but just make sure that you understand what your long-term plans are going to be. You're going to Medicare, talk and find out what plans they have to offer, your pharmaceuticals, what they offer, different things, and like Amy shared earlier, you can get some help with that as well. And anyhow, keeping too much cash. You don't want to have $100,000 sitting in a regular savings account, because a regular savings account isn't earning anything right now. So you could move some of that money into a certificate of deposit, where they may lock that for 6 months. And actually, a good rule of thumb is that if you have $100,000, put $500 into one for 6 months. 6 months, 3 months later, put another $500,000. So what happens is, one's going to be maturing and always available if you need it, because if you withdraw, there can be penalties for withdrawing too soon on a CD. If you plan for your CDs to mature about every 3 months, you're going to have something that comes available that you can determine, do I need that money or can I renew it? And that's a good management plan as well. Let's see. Not reassessing your budget. We've talked about that. In every stage, you have to reassess your budget, figure out what your needs are, because with every decade, your health, your finances, your goals, they're all going to be changing. I wasn't planning for the end of my life when I was in my 20s, but now that I'm 70 plus, I am looking at these kind of things. So that is really important to do all along the way. And underestimating life expectancy. We're living longer now, and you need to take a look at what is your family history. If you're going to live to be 90, how's that going to look? Are you going to be healthy? Are you going to be mobile? Will you be able to do things? Or are you going to have somebody living with you? Or are you going to need to be in a long-term, healthcare facility? They have retirement communities that are just adorable. What does that look like to you? And those are things you need to talk about with your spouse or with your kids, and make those decisions to make your life much easier. Maybe a 4-bedroom house isn't so easy to take care of when you're in your 80s. Maybe it's time to figure out, a tiny house might sound pretty good. But, and again, we've talked about updating beneficiaries. You want to make sure that those are all still in place the way you want it. You want to make sure your wills and all your other financial documents are in place. Anyway, we've talked about that. You want to make sure that your children know where your certificates of birth are and all the legal documents that they may need. You want to make sure that you review estate and tax planning. That's really important. Proper planning can help reduce taxes on your estate and ensure that your wishes are met. Again, I'm going to lean heavily on a financial planner here.
Tax advisors.
Tax advisors, yep. Your CPA, whoever you may have doing your taxes. You want to redo your strategies for reducing or avoiding estate taxes when you're gone. Anyhow, we talked also about being too generous with your family. As you get a lot older, it seems like there are some family members that will, tend to put more of a financial strain on you, and you just want to make sure that your family understands where your budget is and what you can and cannot do. It's just a matter of communicating. Cognitive decline, as you go into your 70s, 80s, or beyond, you could start losing your ability to drive, and then you're going to have to rely on someone to take you around. You could mentally decline and start making poor financial decisions. This is where having somebody on your account would really help. Scammers are notorious for taking advantage of seniors because they are good salesmen, and they will just take everything they can and not feel bad about leaving you in a dire, desperate situation. So be really careful. In fact, I now have my phone set to where if you're not in my contact list, my phone automatically puts it to voicemail, and if it's important, you'll leave a message. And if I don't know who you are and you're leaving a message about, oh, we have $75,000 that you won, give us a call, and I don't know who the heck they are, and I haven't signed up for any contests, I'm not going to answer that. I delete it. So, be sure and put safeguards in place as you get older, because it gets a little more challenging, and it's hard to decipher what's true and what isn't. Anyway, if you can avoid these mistakes and maintain your financial security, it's going to give you peace of mind throughout your 70s and beyond, and it'll ensure that you have more security and be able to have a comfortable retirement, which is what we're all striving for. But anyway, so here's some tips to avoid future money mistakes. You want to stay educated about finances. You want to learn about personal finances through books, podcasts, and courses that are offered out there. Through your financial planner, they'll be able to offer you suggestions on what to read or take a look at. Stick to a long-term financial plan. Set goals, and but allow flexibility as circumstances change. We've talked about that. Practice delayed gratification. Again, save for your wants rather than relying on credit cards, and live below your means. Living a simple life to create more room for financial security and freedom is amazing. So, we've been through quite a bit here, and
we've shared a lot too of personal experiences.
We
and
have
suggestions.
And I am very excited at this stage of my life. I am not afraid or fearful of anything. I feel like I'm not in a perfect situation. However, I have achieved milestones from where I started in a very short period of time. And I'm very grateful for that. And so that has left me exciting to see what my senior years are going to be bringing me. And I have just, I'm not ready to call it quits yet. I've got a lot of irons in the fire, and it's a good thing I'm retired because I don't know how I do all this stuff I'm having a ball doing. You know, if you got any suggestions or thoughts or ideas on what's helped you overcome, you know, financial struggles, or what you have done that's been successful, why don't you share it? Because we can all learn from one another.
And we want to celebrate with you the successes. We love that.
Yes. So if you like what we have shared, I know it was a lot, and we are thankful if you've hung in there till the very end of this thing. But, you know, again, be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, let us know what your thoughts are, and I don't know what the next episode's going to be yet.
Well, we've got some surprises we're working on. We know for sure we're going to be talking about the holidays in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been talking about this for almost a year. We're going to do that deep dive into the self-care seminar.
Nice.
That's really near and dear to my heart. So that's coming up.
Yeah.
And some surprises coming up.
Yeah. So again, you know, be sure to stay tuned so you won't miss an episode. And until then, have a fabulous week.
Be well.
Bye.
Bye.